There was only one proper road leading from the city to where the factory was. The road wasn't very wide, but it was the only way to the factory. All the building materials the factory needed had to come through this road to get to the factory. But right now, there was a large sign halfway down the road, "Roadblock ahead, drive slowly." They didn't care about ordinary cars, but if it was a vehicle carrying building materials, they would immediately tell the driver to turn back and get lost.
Boss, I think this Dawson Group factory is never going to get built even if you give them a few decades. They can't get any steel or cement or wood in. What will they use to build? Well, it's not impossible. They just have to buy from us. It's only 5 or 6 times more expensive, and the company is filthy rich anyway.
The few of them were sitting in a little tent by the road. They made sure that not a single vehicle carrying materials for the Dawson Group could get through. As they were talking, they suddenly saw a car coming at them at high speed. They could see from afar that it was a white BMW, but for some reason, the front of the car had been smashed in very badly.
Tell him to stop and ask who it is.
The rest of them immediately walked out and held out a hand to tell John to slow down and stop. But the car engine became even louder. He didn't decelerate, but accelerated instead. Everyone's face turned pale. They stood in front of the roadblock. They had never seen anyone crazy enough to crash right into them. But the person coming wasn't just anybody, it was John. The BMW smashed into the barrier head-on, scaring all of them half to death. The barrier they had was now broken into several pieces. The few of them were sprawled on the floor. If they had reacted that bit slower, they would have been killed. The car stopped not far from them, and John was slowly walking over. The few of them were now filled with fury. This guy even dared to stop and get out? If they didn't beat him today, they'd write their names backwards from now on.
Fuck you, asshole. You better kneel down for me and compensate me.
They shouted angrily as they made their way towards John. One of them reached to grab John's clothes. But there was a smacking sound as he felt his chest shake violently and a loud crack could be heard. He hadn't even seen when John had made his attack. His bone was broken. Yells of pain filled the air. In a blink of an eye, 3 of them were on the ground with their limbs all broken. The last man in the tent heard the noise and rushed out, with a knife in his hand. John saw him rushing over and suddenly held up his hand. A fist struck the man straight in the nose and blood spurted everywhere. That man's face practically sank in. That pain was indescribable.
You, who the hell are you? Do you know who we are?
I don't care whose dogs you are. I will only give you one warning. If you dare to affect the Dawson Group factory's building progress, you're going to die.
John looked at the rest, his voice as cold as the air in winter. With that, he turned and hopped into the car and left. After John had left, all of them still couldn't even stand. Part of the reason was because their limbs had been broken. But it was also because the frightening aura that John exuded made them so fearful. They found it difficult to breathe. It was as if they had come face to face with a violent beast and not a man. A violent beast that could easily tear them to pieces. Back at the meeting room, Elise and the rest still hadn't thought of a good solution. These people were very cunning. And it seemed like there was no other way but to meet their demands.
This won't do. I'm going to talk to them.
Elise got up from her seat. She couldn't afford to waste any more time. Once they were behind schedule to build the factory, they would have to adjust the timeline for the entire project. She couldn't afford to be responsible for the losses in their investment they would suffer if that happened.
No need to talk. I've already talked to them.
Elise and the other project managers were stunned.
When did you go and talk to them?
When you guys were having a meeting. I've already talked to them, they know they were in the wrong. So they've already moved the barrier away. You can let the vehicles through now.
Elise suddenly felt dizzy. They had spent a long time discussing solutions, but couldn't find a good one. John had just gone out for a while and managed to reach an agreement? That was impossible. But John had never lied to her. At least from the time she knew him till now, he had never lied at all.
Tell the vehicles to quickly send everything in.
Elise turned and said to Mr. Clifford.
How did you settle this?
With gentle persuasion and a sincere heart. Well, that's what I planned to do initially. But after thinking about it, my fists would settle this matter much quicker. It's time to knock off, so let's go.
What? But we just got here. Are we going home?
Let's go get another car.
John dragged Elise into the car and made a sharp turn, causing all the dust to fly everywhere. Back at the BMW car shop, Elise bit her lips. It was difficult to describe the expression she used to look at John.
Enough is enough. One car is $500,000. Stop wasting money like that.
But John dragged her into the shop. The sales assistants recognized John the minute he walked in. He was that super rich guy from 2 days ago. He was probably here to install the permanent license plate. They felt much regret at losing that sale the last time. But luckily it was just one sale, so they could still accept this loss.
Mr. Crawford.
The salesgirl from the 2 days ago saw that John and Elise had come and she quickly walked over.
Are you here to install the license plate? I've just received it.
She hadn't even had a chance to notify them yet.
Oh no, we don't need that plate anymore.
The salesgirl froze. What did he mean by that? Seeing how apologetic Elise looked, the salesgirl thought, could they be returning the car? All the other sales assistants guessed the same thing when they heard what John said. It made sense since he had bought a car worth nearly $500,000 without even test driving it. Sure, it made him look cool, but there were plenty of people who realized they couldn't afford to maintain the car too. John must have embarrassed himself. And the sales assistants all thought he was filthy rich. Return the car? That was not an easy thing to do. He might have come to create trouble for the shop. John pointed at the car in the showroom and said,
This car here, I want another one. The same one.
What did you say?
The salesgirl was stunned, and she thought she had heard wrongly. Another one?
Another one. The last one I bought is all knocked up. Hurry up and get it done. I want to get home quickly to eat my mom's cooking.
John took his card out and passed it to the salesgirl. The salesgirl finally managed to react. John was really here to buy another car, and her face was flush with excitement. Anyone who saw her now would have thought she just did some vigorous exercise.
Got it, Mr. Crawford. I'll get it processed for you right now.
The salesgirl was so excited she was nearly in tears. It had only been a few days and he bought another car. She had made another killing. The other sales assistants gulped as they watched on in envy. They wanted to cry, but there were no tears. They couldn't even sell 2 cars in a month. But this newbie had sold 2 in a row, and to the same person. 2 cars was $1 million. Were all rich people nowadays this crazy?
John, if you waste money like this, my mom won't be happy about it.
Don't worry, I know how to handle her. I guarantee you she won't be angry.
In just a few moments, everything had been settled. The salesgirl was even faster this time round.
Mr. Crawford, here's your card.
She passed that special black card back to John. The last time she had gone home to check and found out what was the minimum amount required to own this card, and nearly fainted when she saw the amount.
I'm afraid you have to wait another 2 days for the license plate for this new car. I'll get it done for you as soon as possible.
John didn't waste any more time talking. He took the new car keys from her and turned to leave.
What do we do with the old car?
I don't want it anymore.
When she heard his response, Elise suddenly felt like strangling him. This wastrel. The car was only 2 days old, and he didn't want it anymore just because he said so?
No. You can't just do whatever you want all the time. We'll leave it here to be repaired, is that okay?
Of course, that's our job. I'll take care of everything, don't worry.
Whatever my wife says.
Mrs. Crawford, you're so lucky to have such a wonderful husband who listens to you.
Elise's face reddened, and she glared at John. How dare he call her his wife in public? She hadn't acknowledged that yet. John drove away with Elise in the new car. Outside the shop, the sales assistants looked at the poor new car that was all banged up and felt deep pain in their hearts. This was a car that they might never afford in their entire lives. But there were people who could afford to treat it as a toy.
Do you think he might come back in a few days to buy another one?
What? Like maybe the ashtray in the car is too full?
Bill and Mary saw them drive a brand new car back home. Mary surprisingly didn't utter a single word. While Bill took a look and wanted to say something, but didn't say anything in the end.
Mom, what's for lunch? I've been busy the whole morning. I'm so hungry now.
Elise grumbled to herself, what nonsense, I'm the one who's been busy all morning. You even ate 2 fried dough sticks this morning.
Just some simple home-cooked dishes, try them, wash your hands, come and eat.
Everyone gathered round the table to eat. Mary took the card she received from Nathaniel Cooper in the morning and placed it on the table.
The CEO of Newark Bank came by this morning. He gave me $5 million as compensation. I didn't know how to reject them. Elise, how should we deal with this?
They definitely had to return this money. It was such a large sum. She felt nervous just holding on to the card.
Of course we're accepting it. $5 million, that's letting them off too lightly. Their staff slapped my mom. If it were me, I would have made them pay up at least $5 billion. I'll make sure the bank goes bankrupt. Mom, you're too kind for forgiving them so easily.
Elise was so shocked she nearly dropped her chopsticks when she heard this. John wasn't kidding around. If Mary did not forgive them, never mind $5 million, even $50 billion wouldn't help. All it took was one word from him to make Newark Bank collapse in 3 days. Bill quietly continued eating. The amount John was talking about was way too high for him to comment on. Elise looked with disbelief at John. She didn't know if he was just joking or boasting. Only Mary knew that John wasn't kidding at all. This boy, she couldn't believe how protective he was of her. She felt that even if she really had a son, her own biological son wouldn't be as protective as John.
Mom, keep it. This is what you deserve. I can guarantee you that if you don't accept this, from tomorrow onwards, the CEO is going to come begging on your doorstep every single day.
Mom, since John has said so, then you just keep it. They hit you, so you should be compensated.
It's just that even Elise felt that this compensation amount was way too high. $5 million. But somehow John was still not satisfied with this amount.
Then I'll just keep it aside first. So when a good time comes for us to return it, I'll give it back.
Mom, just boldly use the money. You can just use it to buy vegetables or something. Or buy more meat. This braised meat is super good.
John had already finished 1 bowl of rice, and got up to get another. He was really treating this place like his own home, and did whatever he liked. Meanwhile, at a private hot spring clubhouse, Jerome was soaking in the water with his eyes half closed. Beside him was a burly and bald man, his upper body covered with tattoos, and looked fairly menacing.
Brother Nelson. How is it that each group of men you have is more useless than the previous group? Can't even settle something so simple? I've paid $2 million and you're telling me that this is the result?
This marks the end of chapter 24. Please like, share and subscribe to my channel and comment any other novel you'd like to be featured here.